Hey guys, Dr. Ben here at the Functional Medicine Center, and welcome. Happy Saturday to everybody. If you have not liked this page before, go ahead and do that. Go ahead and put the follow button up top as well. We're going to be getting into lots of good information today about why some people don't make it with COVID and why others do, and why some people don't even get COVID at all. And that's really that functional medicine perspective that we look at, is why, even just in a regular year, why some people get the flu, why others don't. The research shows about 15% of the people that get exposed to the flu actually get the flu. So why is that? Why is it 85% of the people don't get the flu? Why is it that the research has shown only about 20% of the people that get exposed to COVID are going to get COVID? What is those underlying issues that are going on? So just wanted to give a heads up as well. We are starting a Facebook group also for those of you that want more in-depth information. I'll be doing weekly live Q&As, getting a lot more in-depth into what we do with patients, how we help people, health tips of the week, exercise, all types of different things. So look for that Facebook group page coming up, Health Solutions Now. We'll be getting that out to everybody. So we know that COVID-19 is a disease of older people. The research is out there that you can't say that, oh, it affects everybody equally. That just doesn't happen. In some states, like up in New Hampshire, it was 90% of the population that died were in retirement homes or assisted living. 50% of New Jersey. The research coming out last week showed 54% of the people that died from COVID were if you take out New York State, were in retirement homes or assisted living. Over 80% of the people that have died have been over the age of 60. So, just really about that older person. Hey Megan, how are you? Good to see you. If you guys haven't already, go ahead and put down where you're watching us from. I love to see those. We get people from Maryland, Virginia, Pennsylvania, all over the place. And then those of us here in Colorado, beautiful day here in Colorado, get to live with the mountains and everything fun here. So go ahead and put down where you're watching from as well. And any questions that you have too. Anything that you might be doing or might be thinking about doing to help yourself fight off COVID or any other virus that's going on. Hey there, you calling in from Plattsmouth, of course. Another Megan, you're from Nebraska as well. Go Huskers. All right. So we know that COVID-19 is a disease of older people, especially 65 plus. And I just posted earlier that the CDC posted on June 10th, the number of people that have died, and they called it dealing with COVID. They died dealing with COVID, and they compared it even to pneumonia, just people that died from pneumonia. And under age 24, it was almost 3 times the number of people have died from pneumonia than have from COVID in the United States, all the way up to 2 days ago. So we know there's even more people dying from pneumonia than from COVID, and especially in that younger crowd, really hardly any people passing away from COVID, but it's mostly in that older crowd. So let's go through the physiology today of what is actually going on in the older person, going on in the immune system, what happens with aging, what happens with a lot of the conditions and even cardiovascular disease. We saw in Italy, the research showed that 99% of the people that died in Italy from COVID-19 had other co-infections, comorbidities. They were looking at diabetes, cardiovascular disease, they were overweight, obese, they had high blood pressure, a lot of different issues. You look at we talked about this last week, the Navajo Reservation in Arizona, the highest per capita of anybody getting COVID in the whole country, even more than New York City. Why? The underlying health status. So we're going to go over some of that today, of some of that specifically where people are getting this from. Hey there, Janet, out in Kansas. Good to see you. All right, so a new report just came out and showed that they were talking about everything that we're seeing with COVID, with infections, with all these things. And the new report shows that the inability or that inhibiting the virus is not enough. We can't just block our face, wash our hands, keep people away, social distance, all those things. That cannot do it. We must restore the patient's ability to fight the infection and upregulate the immune system. This is what happens with everything. We've got to be able to get our immune system working better. We've got to be able to upregulate that immune system as opposed to just trying to squash that immune response. Hey Heather, how are you out there? So what do we do? Well, some of the things that we look at, we've been talking about this, we've got a lot of other videos on it. We have to regulate the blood sugar. We know blood sugar swings is going to be a huge part of what's affecting the immune system and not able to get that good response. Hey Misty, good to see you this week. Hope you're doing well out there in Nebraska. Hope Austin's doing good. So what we've got is we've got to stabilize our blood sugar. Every time it spikes up, it trashes the immune system. Every time it crashes down, revs up the adrenals, and we're not able to fight off things as well. So we've got to get our blood sugar stabilized to help that immune system. We've got to get proper exercise. You need to push enough, but not too much. Some people, they push too much, and what happens is they're crashed and they're depleted. If you're tired after doing exercise, if you want to take a nap, you did too much, you went too long. If you don't feel much of anything, you're not sore anything the next day, you probably didn't do enough. So there's a fine line in there. We've got a bunch of other videos on exercise and what we need to do and all the research that's out there. Just search our Facebook page or YouTube page and you will see the research that's showing exercise can stimulate that immune response, can help fight off viruses. Then we look at vitamin D. Huge, I think it was on Tuesday I did a research on, is there a second wave? The number one thing we can do for this, get your vitamin D optimized. It is the biggest thing that you can do, easiest thing that you can do, 60 to 80. What do we say? Get outside in your bikini between 12 and 1 every day, and you'll get enough vitamin D. Well, not everybody's going to do that. So you just take enough vitamin D orally to get into that 60 to 80 range. Hey there, Bucko's Feed and Freight out in Lyman. Good to see you. Got stuck in Lyman probably about 6 years ago with a big blizzard. We had to stay the night in Lyman in a hotel because they shut down the interstate. All right, so we need to get proper sleep. We need to get 7-8 hours of good quality sleep. I've got a bunch of videos on sleep hygiene. This is crucial. You've got to do the things necessary to get that good quality sleep. Relaxation techniques. You can be either in fight or flight, or you can be in resting and digesting, but you cannot do both at the same time. The resting and digesting is going to be that immune response. If you're in a fight or flight all the time, you're not going to be able to fight off viruses, bacteria, whatever it is, as well as you should. So we've got to have this consistent calming state that's going to keep you calm and allow your body to truly fight off what it needs to. Okay, so we're gonna get, this is our Science Saturday, so we're gonna get a little bit more technical here, but stick with me. So there's 4 things that the immune system needs to do. First, it needs to recognize whatever comes in. So if I'm working with somebody and they've got the regular flu and I get a virus exposed to me, hey Melissa, how you doing out there? If they get a virus exposed to me, what do? We have to recognize that. And this is what happens with the immune system all the time. We're recognizing different invading forces. And then number 2, we have to alert the system. And so we alert this whole immune system and we say, hey, is it a big enough issue that we need to create this response and destroy that activity? So it's going to alert it and try to figure out what it really is. So we recognize, we alert, and then we destroy. And so that destruction, so the alert is going to be the antibodies and recognizing, and that's what we're looking for with the antibody testing. The destroy is going to be the cytotoxic T cells, the different cells that are going to destroy those viruses or whatever else is going on. But then we also need to clear it. And this is a really important part, especially as people age. Remember, COVID-19 is a disease that's affecting the older people dramatically, 80-90% more in those age ranges than under 65. So why is that? One of the big things that happens as we age is we cannot clear as well. It's not just the ability to destroy these things, but we cannot clear it. That can create some of that immune inflammatory cascade. So we have to recognize, alert, destroy, and clear. as people age, this system becomes dysfunctional. So just general aging, we do it, but then when you add in all of these other diseases and conditions, and they're overweight and they're obese and they have cardiovascular disease and high blood pressure and diabetes and all these things that happen with age, they are going to be less likely to be able to fight these things off. So we get this thing called immunosenescence that happens as we age, and it's basically where the body's not able to recognize, alert, and clear like it's supposed to. And with aging, we also have systemic inflammation, and this inflammatory process, it becomes actually overactive for various things. So we may get this virus into the body, and it's going to be recognized as, oh, there's a virus and we better rev things up. So it rev things up, and what happens? Well, in a lot of older people, it can over-exaggerate, and it's this systemic inflammatory process. It's not an effective process though, so they can't really fight it off, but it creates this inflammatory cascade, and the body just goes into haywire. So we've got to be able to recognize things, but do the appropriate attack and destroy what we need to. But as we age, and the older people out there, they're not able to do those things as well, especially as they go through this problem. But think about this though. Well, I've talked about this in the past, that the biggest pandemic we have in this country is that we're pre-diabetic, we're insulin resistant, all those things. And that's one of the reasons why we have way more issues than any country else out there, is because we have 80% of our population is insulin resistance. That's a huge number, and that's either pre-diabetes, diabetes, or even pre-diabetes, but they are on their path to having some major issues. In the past couple of weeks, I had a 9-year-old that showed up with insulin resistance. I had a 13-year-old that showed up 5.7 on the A1C. That's pre-diabetic. We see 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, all the way through the gamut. It's not just 60, 70, 80-year-olds. And that's why you may hear about somebody that's 30 years old that dies from COVID, or 40-year-old that dies from COVID. Their bodies are not healthy. Their immune system is not healthy. That inflammatory cascade is way more than it's supposed to be. So again, if you guys have any questions, go ahead and put those down below. For those of you just jumping on, we're starting a Facebook group page. It is up and running, Health Solutions Now, and you can jump on that. We're going to get in-depth information. We're going to get way more into the day in life of what I do, my family does, the health tips that we're giving our patients. I'm going to be doing a weekly Q&A, hour-long Q&A. We're going to be doing one actually on Monday for everybody. So jump on Monday, 4 p.m. Mountain Time. Jump on. We'll be doing an hour Q&A. Bring your questions. Bring anything that you have as far as health goes, immune system, anything at all. We'll be covering everything. So macrophages are that clearing part of things. So they're going to come in and they're going to clear out damage, remove the waste. And in older people, the macrophages recognize those viral particles, but they convert it to a pro-inflammatory state, and that's going to accelerate this COVID, especially in the early stages. So what happens is, again, we get this whole inflammatory immune process that's just revving up, and that's one of the reasons why the older people are having such a problem early in this cycle of COVID-19. Even way back months ago, we were talking about the first 5 days of this COVID infection, and that's being the most important to get your body and your immune system working where it needs to fight this off. But with older people, they can go into this excitatory state where they get this excess inflammation and get way more problems through there. Hey, Randy, out in Scottsbluff, I've got some pictures of my mom catching some, she caught three fish out in Scottsbluff last weekend that were master anglers, bluegill, sunfish, and a crappie. They're awesome. I'll post them up on there. Hey, Chris, how are you guys doing? All right, so this is also why in the age, responses to the vaccines may not be as effective. Bill Gates said this probably 3 months ago. I've got the quote up on the website somewhere. He said that don't get your hopes up for COVID vaccine, especially for the older people, because we know that regularly the flu vaccine is not very effective for older people. And that's what they're saying now, is that older people may not respond as well as young people to a COVID vaccine, just because that immune system does not respond like it should. So even with a vaccine, even with getting exposed that way, it may not create that immunity that we want. So unfortunately, we look at a lot of statistics. 2017, 2018, there was between 51,000 and 61,000 people that died in nursing homes, just in nursing homes and assisted living in 2017-18 flu season from the flu. So these things, it's been going on for a while. Doesn't matter if it's COVID, if it's the flu, if it's pneumonia, whatever it is, the older people are always having a harder time because they have so many things going on. Hey Brenda, how are you? Good to see you. And Carol, good to see you out there. Hope everything is doing well. All right, so some of the other things that we're looking at, in that elderly, they have elevated levels of inflammation, and this is for the vascular inflammation. The research shows that in the blood vessels, those blood vessels, that vascular inflammation takes place. That's why we get cardiovascular disease. That's why there's heart disease, strokes, all types of different things. But that also creates this inflammatory cycle throughout the body. And so a lot of people that are aging and they have, you look at a lot of these studies, the study in in retirement homes, assisted living, 90% of the people in assisted living retirement homes have at least one pre-existing condition. Most of the time it's cardiovascular disease, high blood pressure, stroke, anything like that. So that vascular inflammation is going to be a huge part of what is stimulating this immune inflammatory cascade in there. So we know that this also can stimulate what is called the cytokine storm. We've talked about this in the past as well. Cytokine storm, one of the big reasons why people actually die from the COVID-19 or other viruses in general, because it's going to stimulate this inflammatory cascade. It's going to rev it up, and it's going to cause the body to ultimately attack itself. And the research is showing that that is what's happening as well, is that we're stimulating this cytokine storm. One last thing on the aging and what they're actually looking at. Give me a thumbs up if you guys have heard of metformin. Metformin, hey Virginia out there in Kansas, metformin is going to be a diabetes drug. They use it for diabetes, they use it for polycystic ovarian syndrome in young women, a lot of different things out there. But metformin helps modulate that blood sugar and that metabolic state. And so what we look at here is metformin is showing promise as fighting off COVID-19 and dealing with this infection in older people. There's some research, some studies that they're looking at with metformin. And obviously, I'm not saying go get on that medication or don't do it. I would much rather somebody's body be able to do this. But what we look at is they're showing that metformin decreases the amount of the viral load that's going in the body. It increases the mitochondrial metabolism. Mitochondria is what's creating energy in our body, and it's revving up that energy production process. It's decreasing the inflammatory cytokines, and it's decreasing the amount of cellular damage. So the medication they're hoping is going to do what you can do for yourself with what you're eating, what you're exercising, what you're thinking, what you're sleeping. All of those things that we're talking about are going to be even more effective than the research that comes out on metformin when in the next week or two they start saying, hey, metformin might be a good thing to do with COVID-19. Well, you can do it for yourself, and that's the whole point of functional medicine. So if you haven't already, like this page, follow this page, share this post with anybody, especially if they're older, if they're worried about what's going on. They've got to know that there's reasons, there's physiological reasons why this is happening. So a couple other interesting facts that we've seen. I looked on the CDC website. I'll post this link on there. There's some thumbs up out there. And Randy, you're using that for diabetes. Yeah. April, good to see you. Brenda, good to see you. All right, so in CDC website, they said as of June 10th, from February 1st to June 10th, there's actually been more, 106,833 pneumonia deaths versus 95,608 people that died dealing with COVID. So interesting that even this year, with as much COVID infection as we've had, we still actually have more pneumonia deaths than we do COVID deaths. Kind of thought that was interesting. I didn't know that we still had that many people dying of pneumonia, even from February through June. Again, nursing homes 2017 to 18, we had 51 to 61,000 people die that year in nursing homes from the flu. So again, it's not just COVID-19, it's this aging body that every year is just trashed by these viruses, and they're just not able to fight it off. 75% of the nursing homes, though, have been cited for not fully preventing and doing everything they can to prevent the infection. So 75% of nursing homes are failing in preventing infections. This was even before COVID, before we knew all the damage and all the risks that the older people have. Interesting, a couple states have actually passed laws that are going to create immunity to nursing homes and retirement facilities if they do have outbreaks, if they do have infections. And the two states, New York and Massachusetts, interesting enough, those are some of the highest numbers of fatalities in the country. So, and we also know that when we talked about this before, that a lot of states were actually forcing retirement homes to take COVID patients to make sure that the hospitals didn't get overwhelmed. Last stat I saw, over 5,400 people in New York State died from COVID that were actually transported into those retirement facilities. So, again, the aging person doesn't have to get sick. I've seen 60, 70, 80-year-old people that are healthy, that can fight things off, that are able to handle so many different things out there. So it's not just, oh, you're getting old and you can't fight this, or grandma or anybody else out there, or your immune system is stressed, or any of those things. You have the ability to fight this off day in and day out. That's the whole reason for functional medicine, to really give the body the ability to heal. Dig down deep, figure out what's going on, correct those imbalances, and you'll be able to fight off better than any drug, any vaccine, any medication, anything out there. You've got it inside of yourself to do it. Take that self-responsibility. Everybody, great to see you. Hope you're having a great weekend. And if you're interested in that Facebook group, look on Monday at 4 p.m. Mountain Time. I'll be doing a live hour-long Q&A, so bring any questions you have. And everybody have a great rest of your weekend. Take care.